As it's now the beginning of a new year, of course, we have a bit of time to reflect on what has passed. And I didn't realize how many games came out last year. And it was actually really hard for me to think about three games that actually were impactful in the last year because, oh my lord, there was too much. It was simply too much. It was
It didn't
ridiculous.
stop, did it?
Got to the point. It just was a deluge of things.
And it just never stopped. It's like every year before there was a period or two through the year where there was a bunch of games coming out. But last year really felt like it just never stopped. it was it was
Elden
crazy.
Ring came out, and then everything else came out, and I was like, "What is going on?"
I know, like Square Enix alone released like 40 games last year. It was crazy. Every week there
And
was
three
more
of them are
games.
shut down.
Yeah, I know.
Ooh.
Unfortunate in some cases, like
Uh,
Chocobo, I will stand behind Chocobo GP forever. That's actually one of my most played Switch games now. Um, and I was disappointed that didn't do better. Babylon Fall, that was just funny.
that
Uh,
was a game. I
that, that,
played
that
that for
would,
about an hour and a half with the intent of playing it with you, and then it just never happened. And then the game shut down.
yeah. It's unfortunate too because that game had potential. If it wasn't a live service thing, it could have been good. Like it could have been
Yeah.
a good game, but nah, they had to try and do something stupid with it. Um, Unfortunate, but there were other good ones. Like Square Enix did Direfield Chronicle. That really stuck out to me as a great game. They did the Final Fantasy Stranger of Paradise, which was poorly
I
timed.
forgot about that.
It was really poorly timed. It came out like a week after Elden Ring, which was dumb, but it was good.
Horrific
It
idea.
was really good. So much fun. I love
It
that game.
was.
I love that game so much.
I think I beat it recently, and I don't think I've enjoyed a game that has been as aggressively a PS2 game as much as Stranger in Paradise is.
Yeah, and it's
It
just
makes me
Great way
very
of
really
happy.
it's
describing it.
it's just really funny the way they kind of like pulled apart Final Fantasy and just kind of made fun of it. It was great.
It was a piss take. It was phenomenal. More games should
Was
be a
it
piss take,
deliberate
but not.
though? That's the thing.
Oh, it
Like,
was
It
definitely
must have been.
it was 100% deliberate. You know why I know it was deliberate? Because it was actually the same writer as the Final Fantasy VII remake, not the director, the same writer who wrote the
oh,
story.
okay, sure.
And
Oh.
he definitely knows what he's doing. And this is like his style. It's kind of like to deconstruct these Final Fantasy games because Final Fantasy VII is very much a deconstruction as well, the remake. So yeah, that's his thing, and he's hit a pretty good groove with it. I loved it. I loved Stranger of Paradise. But anyway,
I
that's not
agree.
one
It
of
was
my
also
three.
liked
very
it.
fun to play.
It's not even one of my
That
three.
might be one of my three. That's the worst part. Is like I have so many threes now that I can't even think about the original three that I sent into the chat. I was like, oh yeah, also Crisis Core came out this year, and I played the shit out of that. That's great.
Oh, did you? Did you end up picking it up?
Yeah,
It's good.
I did pick up Crisis Core. I think it's probably the best Final Fantasy VII story because it
How
has the
good
only
is
human
Zach?
character in the entire series. He's a great boy. I just
He's a
love that
good
man. What a
boy.
king.
I'm a big fan of Zach. He's
He's
a
the
champ.
only character in Final Fantasy who seems to be human.
He
You know what I
does,
mean?
doesn't
Like they
like he's
actually,
like
he has a human personality. He's just like, oh, you're being a dick. I'm gonna punch you in the stomach and call you a dickhead. And I
yeah,
respect that on a great deal of levels.
yeah. That was a good game. I
Yeah,
enjoyed that. But
yeah.
anyway, yes. So
Oh,
what we're
okay,
doing,
Matt.
what
What
we're
was one
doing,
of your top three games?
yes, what we're going to do to that was a very interesting introduction. Basically, what we're going to do is go through our kind of three games that stood out to us as the not necessarily the best, but the most memorable games that like just stuck with us through the year. Um, and I guess Alan just told me I have to start, so I'll go first.
Yeah.
My first one is going to be probably the one game of all the games I played this year. This is the one that's kind of stuck out, and I'm going to be enthusiastic about this one for forever. I don't necessarily think it was the best game, but Star Ocean, um,
I've been
whatever
meaning
the
to try it.
subtitle
Can
was,
you
I
give me
can't remember the subtitle, but the Star
give the
Ocean that came
pitch?
out this year. What was the subtitle? I can't remember now. I'm going to have to look it up. Star Ocean and the Divine Force. Yeah, it for me, it was firstly it was a return to form for Star Ocean because the one on the PS4, which was Integrity and Faithlessness, that was not such a great game, and I love Star Ocean from back on the PS2 in particular with Star Ocean 3, and I was hoping for it to be a return to that kind of form, and it very much was. But this game just has the most epic kind of setting. It's just such a big kind of space opera experience in every way. And from the characters, I really loved all the characters and the way that they were written. I love the art style in the game is just breathtaking. It's not necessarily the most technically competent game. For example, Elden Ring is a much better game of being kind of this big open world, massive experience. But Star Ocean just has so much unique qualities to it. It's such a kind of excellent sci-fi vision that's unique and stands out. And I just couldn't stop playing it when it came out, and it just has stuck with me since. Like every time I'm thinking about the games that I loved through the year, Star Ocean's the one that kind of stands out. So I would definitely recommend everybody play it. You don't need to have played the previous Star Oceans to do this one. They're not connected in any particular meaningful way. Just give it a go. The intro is a little bit of a it's not the world's best intro. It doesn't do a great job of kind of getting you in, but by the time you're about 2 or 3 hours into it, you should be pretty much sold on it. So that one.
If it doesn't have a snowball sting at the start, what's the point, Matt?
It doesn't have a snowball fight, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Trent, but
Don't they all live inside a video game programmed by Satan? Wasn't that Star Ocean?
I cannot explain how much I love that as a concept. That's hilarious.
I think there were self-aware video game characters in one of them, and then I think they've tried to backtrack from it since. Maybe that was PSP. I'm out of the loop on Star Ocean. I just know that weird factoid.
It might be Star Ocean
Great though.
2, potentially. That's the one I haven't played too much. I can't remember if Star Ocean 1 did that to you. Definitely Star Ocean 3 and whatever. After that, it kind of doesn't do that. It's not that kind of self-aware, we're all a simulation kind of thing. And certainly this one, this one isn't. This one's just a kind of, it plays a fairly down the line space opera thing. So you do get to go, go off planet and explore these massive kind of very alien worlds. And yeah, it's also got this really, it's also got a really nice mix of kind of science fiction and traditional fantasy, because some of the characters actually live on a low tech world. And they're wearing, kind of wearing suits of armor and swords and stuff. And then you've got other characters that are like Star Trek who have like laser guns and stuff. So it's got this really eclectic mix of characters and stuff. And yeah, I really enjoyed how that played on.
I was looking at it to buy it actually, because I've never played a Star Ocean game before, and it looked cool enough that I was like, I can give this a whirl.
Yeah, this one. Give it a go. Seriously, give it a go.
Is it turn-based or is it action?
No, it's action. Very action. It's very fast action.
Like, are we talking Talesy?
Yeah. Very fast-paced action. Okay. You won't have a problem with it. The combat system's fine. It works fine. But it is quite a fast-paced action game.
I may actually give that a whirl at some point. If I see it on sale, I would buy it. But it does seem like my kind of thing. The issue is that in a post-Xenoblade 3 world, it's hard for me to justify playing another sci-fi RPG.
Yeah, this one's very different, I promise you. It's like the tone of it is very different. It is very much kind of more B science fiction, if that makes sense. Kind of, War of the Worlds and War of the Worlds and that kind of, science fiction, rather than the Xenoblade Chronicles, which was a more serious.
I'm depressed and in space.
Yeah. Yeah. So Trent,
on that topic though,
go one.
We'll move on.
Okay,
we're moving on. Trent, pick one.
What? You don't want to hear what Alan wants to randomly say?
No. I never want to hear what Alan has to say, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm going to go with something more recent. I've been playing that Little Gator game.
Oh, Little Gator.
You're an alligator. Yeah, like it's got like heaps of like Legend of Zelda references and stuff like that. And basically, if it's an RPG or an adventure game, it's probably parodying or referencing it in some way. Everything's like based off like a child's imagination. You build like there's like little cardboard creatures you have to destroy. At some point, there's like a scene where you're playing with like the cool kids, and it's like a Phoenix Wright's like reference, like it's full of stuff like that. It's great, and it's a short game.
It's a non-insufferable
in like a
game.
few hours.
I do not even know what game you're talking about. To be honest, I missed this release entirely.
It's called Little Gator Game.
Okay.
LIL Gator Game.
I'll check it out.
It's very good. It's kind of a meme, but it's not too bad in terms of like being obnoxious. It's not high on life. It's actually good.
Well,
It's kind of like a short hike, but kind of not.
It's fun. Just a
oh
little
yeah,
Gator game.
it looks cute.
Yeah.
Wow, 10 out of 10 on Steam from 1,000 user reviews. That's pretty impressive.
It's genuinely quite impressive.
Everybody likes it. Like that's literally the thing. Everybody likes it. All right.
Because why would you hate it? It is just a little Gator guy who goes tup, 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 with his feet. He's
Okay.
great.
Well, thank you for introducing me to this one, Trent, because yeah, I had no idea this thing even existed, but I am intrigued now. Alan, game number 1 for you.
Good Xenoblade time. Xenoblade.
Xenoblade.
I really enjoyed it. I
Only
really
because you
enjoyed it.
spent like 700 hours in it, right? So
I spent not that long in it. I spent enough time in it that I got sick of it at the end and was just like, please end this nightmare. No, that game's really good. I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's the most lukewarm take in the history of mankind. I think it's very good.
I tell
I
you
would
what,
say it's probably the most competent one out of all of them.
I thought it had the strongest narrative. Like I didn't think
Yeah.
Xenoblade Chronicles 1, I had a complex relationship with that I had to play it a couple of times to kind of get into its narrative. Luckily, they kept re-releasing it, so I had the excuse to, because I really like it now. I didn't like it when I first played on the Wii. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was a trash fire in terms of its narrative, I thought. It was enjoyable.
But it was great.
It was enjoyable,
It was
but it was definitely not a game that I played for the narrative. But this Xenoblade Chronicles 3, with the way it has like the crazy fascist opening, and then you just know that the characters are going to rebel against that, and all of those kinds of things. Like, it was a very intense narrative, and I found
it was
quite
narratively
gripping.
tight.
Yeah, I found it quite
was very
gripping from the
focused.
outset. And it has Moss from the IT.
It
crowd
does
in
have
it.
moss.
Ooh.
It's got Moss. It's that guy's so Moss.
It's a shame though because I hate him in the game. He annoys me the Christ out of it. He's the glasses guy. And in every single anime I've ever watched, I always hate the glasses guy.
But it's Moss.
It is Moss.
It is so Moss.
Yeah, the game is like phenomenal though. If you've not played it, it does benefit playing 1 and 2 because it's full of like it's okay. The idea is that it's a mix of the worlds of 1 and 2. Wowee. And there's a lot of stuff in it where you look at the environment and you're like, oh, I can see the elements of this place from 1 mixed with this place from 2, and that's kind of funky. And also like the whole mechanic is literally merging the 2 worlds together. It's very good. I can't really say much more because it is worthwhile playing. And also I tried to explain this to my girlfriend who has not played 1 and 2, and she looked at me like I was insane. So I'm not going to bother trying to explain it. It's a very good game, very good series. I would recommend it heavily, in fact.
Yep.
It's also like it's like a 100-hour RPG that doesn't feel like it's 100 hours, which is a good sign compared to Persona 5.
Yeah, no, it doesn't roll on too long. It doesn't feel like it's padded out. Like it feels like it's moving at a pace that is actually, it needs to be this long because that's the depth of the story it's telling. So it's one of those rare ones that I give the pass to on that.
Right at the end as well, so it does something well.
Lachlan, your first one.
I'm going to take the freebie and go with Elden Ring.
Yeah.
As someone who
That's a good
started
game.
with Demon Souls and I didn't really get sucked into Dark Souls as much, Elden Ring just completely hooked me. Just that open world, it was just so much stuff to do. Yeah, just a great game. Highly recommended if you haven't played it, but you've probably already played it.
Yeah, it's one of those
Statistically, yes.
ones that it's one of those ones that like it's almost like you start to have the counter, response to it now, and a bunch of
It's
people
hard
are
to fault though, I feel
yeah,
that
it is.
No,
doesn't
Elden
overdo.
Ring sucks.
Yeah, but you went the wrong
Doesn't
way
suck.
from the start, Trent. You deserve what you got.
Yeah, and I'm mega disappointed that it didn't fizzle out like I said it would. I'm like, there's too many other releases this year. Elden Ring's going to fizzle out. No one's going to want it. And 26 months down the track, and it didn't fizzle out. It won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. Like, it's shit. It doesn't deserve anything.
I don't
Yeah, but
understand why you hate it so
you're
much.
you're just wrong.
Because
Yeah.
it's boring. It's like grinding.
He keeps dying,
it's
Alan.
Like,
Okay.
He
No, I
keeps
have a place to
dying.
grind and like level up a bit. But like it's just like there's no fun. There's nothing to do except for like kill monsters and die. Like it's pointless.
Other
It is a
than
bit
like,
gothic. You have
just-
to be in the right mindset for it. I wouldn't want to play it when depressed
Yeah.
or anything. It's very bleak, but it's
It's ve-
good.
it is. I also
is
thought it like
very good.
it told a much better story than Dark Souls. Like the
Characters are
I thi-
interesting.
yeah the
Yeah.
I felt like the characters you ran into along the way were kind of better at drawing your attention to it. So with Dark Souls, as everybody knows, 90% of the story is kind of locked behind the items that you find and the little bits and pieces and the cues you follow along the way. I felt like Elden Ring had more top level storytelling, like these characters that you ran into along the way. There were more of them. They were more immediately engaging, and through that, you were able to kind of want to learn more about, why is this Red Riding Hood like character here, or why is there like that stinky guy?
Loathsome
Um,
dung eater.
yeah, loathsome dung eater. What's his story? What's this dude? And then you'd kind of
He
want
just
to
eats dung.
you'd want to follow along and find out more about them. So I felt like Elden Ring was better at that, and perhaps that's why it might have done a better job of being that kind of blockbuster experience than even though the Dark Souls games sold well, I always felt like they were inherently niche in terms of how many people were going to
Yeah.
get along with them. I felt like Elden Ring was better at being a game for a broader audience.
I think that also comes with the open world stuff as well, because you can literally just go in a different direction if you're pissed off. Whereas in Dark Souls, if you're stuck in Blighttown, you're stuck in Blighttown.
Yeah.
Suck
Oh,
shit,
yeah.
die.
Yeah.
Whereas here you
that
can be
too.
like, I'm not going to go to Blighttown. I'm going to run around and go into a worse version of Blighttown that is more aggressively awful.
Yeah, I mean there is that. It doesn't matter which direction you go; it's only getting worse for you. But yeah,
Nothing
you're
compared to
right.
that moment where you go into like the Crimson Waste for the first time at like level 4 because you just keep jumping, and then you realize, oh wait, no, you're not meant to be here. This is hell.
Yeah,
And then you
Yeah, when
run.
they trap you in
It's
that dungeon
very fun.
early if you open a chest, that was a bit.
Oh
Yeah.
god.
So it does have a Blighttown equivalent when you're stuck in the mines.
Yep. It's very good. It's so much
Yeah.
fun. I hate that game. Matt, what's your
Valid
second
criticism.
game of the year?
Yes.
What-
I'm going to go with Sword and Fairy Together Forever, which was it was released in August on my birthday.
I was going to say, that's quite a long time ago.
It's a Chinese RPG, well, Taiwanese RPG to be specific, and it has been. This is, I think, it was Sword and Fairy 7 in Taiwan. This is a huge series over there. This is basically like their Final Fantasy. They've turned it into TV series, they've done live action kind of theater productions about this series. It is a massive, massive property. We haven't really had them in the West much. The previous one was Sword and Fairy 6, which did get an English release, but the translation, the localization was absolutely horrible. This is the first time we've had one that's been localized competently, and it is really good. It's not the kind of big budget Final Fantasy like experience because they just don't have that kind of money to work with. But what they've done with it is really impressive, and it tells a very Taiwanese story. It feels different to Final Fantasy and other JRPGs. It feels like an actual kind of Chinese RPG as such. So on that base, it's fascinating. We don't get many of those games, and yeah, it's really beautiful. The art direction behind it is amazing, and it plays well enough as well. So yeah, I really got hooked into it. I loved every moment of it, and just because it is so different, it is a game that we don't get many of in the West. It kind of stuck out to me as a memorable game. And it's not too long, too. That's the other thing. It's kind of big and epic without being 100 hours. I think it was about 30 or 40 hours long, which is a nice length for an RPG. I wish more of them were like
What sort of game is it though? Like in terms of gameplay, what would you say it's closest to?
that. Probably closest to Tales of Arise.
All right. Okay.
just in the way that the kind of the action combat system works. And each character has their own, unique kind of fighting style. So depending on which character you pick, you'll be playing differently. You'll be mashing buttons differently. So yeah, it's probably most like the Tales series in terms of how it plays. But yeah, in terms of the story it's trying to tell, or the story that it's telling, it's more that kind of Final Fantasy epic as such. And it has really
Okay.
nice characters.
That sounds cool.
The character design's really good, like really, really good. I would buy figures of these characters if they made them.
Yeah, okay. That sounds like a cool thing. I might try it out at some point. It's on PS4, right? So therefore PS5.
Yeah.
It's
And
only on
PC.
PS5.
And PC.
Wow, way.
You can
Okay.
enjoy it on your new gaming laptop.
My
Alan.
nerd machine.
Yeah. It's not. It won't
I
be too.
exclusively pay Super Auto Pets on.
it won't. It won't be too machine destroying. I don't think. It's like the equivalent of playing a AAA blockbuster from Activision or whatever. But
That's right.
yeah, I do recommend it because it is different, and it would be nice for people to play more different things.
Yeah. Cool stuff. And I guess that comes into my second game, which is a game that I spent a lot of my Christmas break playing because I bought it on Switch, and that is 2 Point Campus. The game that is not difficult, but just endlessly interesting to me. It scratches the exact same itch as playing Theme Park on the PS2, or Theme Park World, rather, the sequel to it, which it's just a really good time. And if you've ever played any of the 2 Point games, they're just really approachable, fun, like sim management games. There was 2 Point Hospital, and now it's 2 Point Campus. And I cannot recommend them highly enough. They are quite cheap to get at this point in time. And honestly, I think it's worth it. I would say, however, do not buy the Switch version because it crashes constantly, which is a shame. But if you can get it on,
I was just
like
going to ask you
PS5,
about that because you were like, "Oh, I played it on the Switch." I'm like, "Oh, I was thinking of getting it on the Switch. How was it?"
it crashes every like 5 to 10 minutes when you're playing in like the third or fourth year of the game, which is not ideal because you have to get 3 stars in a lot of the areas to unlock all the cool stuff. I would recommend just getting it on a console that is not the Switch, anything else, because it chugs constantly and it sounds like your Switch is taking off. But yeah, it's a good time regardless.
Isn't it
If
on
it's the
Game
only
Pass?
option that you have, it is also on Game Pass, which is why I tried it in the first place. So there
I
you
got
go.
it.
I went
I've
and
got
bought
it
it on
on.
Switch after that.
I've got it on PS4. It was actually my birthday gift to myself this year, and yeah, it works fine on PS4. It's a really good game. I enjoy it a lot too.
It's phenomenal.
It's one of those really kind of minimal risks of kind of game overing simulations. Like you're not going to get a game over. But yeah, it's quirky, it's fun, it's got a good sense of humor, the art style's fun, and it does a good job of kind of slowly ramping up what you can do with it. Like at first, you can only have a couple of different courses. I think it's like science and VR or something. But later on, you start getting some really weird different like things, and the campus environments become interesting. You can put all kinds of food stores down and stuff. I really enjoyed it. Very good fun time.
Yeah, it's a good game. Also, like if you are of the generation who played like Roller Coaster Tycoon and that sort of thing, it gives me the same energy as that. So that's a pretty big recommendation on my end.
I'm more of a theme series and sim series kind of person, not all these roller coaster games. But if it like Theme Hospital is like, you know, like the old one, like 2 Point Hospital is clearly like a really good spiritual successor to Theme Hospital. So if it's that kind of vibe,
oh, it's exactly the same. Like if you've played,
it's the same thing.
If you played 2 Point Hospital, it's exactly the same kind of experience. So
yeah, you'll love it. It's also very just like calm to play.
Yeah,
it's pleasant.
Yeah, you can sit down with your controller and like 2 hours later still be playing, just enjoying building up your little campus.
It's just like a nice time. I just wish more games were just nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
More games should be nice. Shane, what's the second game?
My second game, I'm just gonna go with like Wii Sports Free, because like, you know, I'm refusing to call it by its proper name because it's Wii Sports Free, and it's great. And I was playing the golf game the other day. Like, it's the first time I haven't had a chance to like sit down and actually play it for a while. So I haven't played it since golf's came out. And everyone sucks at golf, and it's great because like I was doing really well, and then I got to the end, and then I started putting, and then I failed. So yeah,
I'm glad that game came out, and also I'm sad that no one seems to give a shit about it because everyone was so pumped about it on the announcement. Like everyone was like,
I
"Oh,
think
it's
it's
Wii
sort
Sports
of
3." Whoa.
I think what sort of fizzled it out was the fact that golf was an add-on. Like, everyone sort of looked at the launch games and they were like, "Where's golf?" Like I know golf's not like a system seller, but like a lot of
Golf.
people seem really disappointed at launch from that. Like, that they needed that sort of complete package, and like a lot of those games are pretty similar. Like, you got badminton and tennis, like they're essentially the same thing. You've got like, you know, bowling. So like not a lot's really changed.
Wii
Bowling's
Sports
good
2
though.
had what, 25 sports for Wii Sports Resort, so it struck me as
Yeah.
a step down. I was like, oh, where's sword fighting? Where's kayaking? Where's
Oh, sword
Sword-
fighting was so sick.
Sword
it
fighting's
was.
in there,
I think IOD is in there,
but
but
there are some that don't work, like volleyball. I say this as a big fan of the sport of volleyball. It doesn't work in Wii Sports. It doesn't kind of reduce down to a waggle of the controller very well. And I didn't think the football game was good at all. I really did not enjoy football in Wii Sports. But I played bowling a lot. Again, I always play bowling a lot with, with Wii Sports. Yeah, I haven't played golf. I should give it a go. I haven't really
And there
played
should be
it
more
since I reviewed it.
games like Ring Fit Adventure. Like, if there was something which used like the ring from Ring Fit Adventure and incorporated in the sport theme and just went more bananas with that, that would be great.
I'm glad that they're going back and actually making a competently made Nintendo-based sports game again, because after Mario Strikers this year, I just lost a lot of faith in my life.
I
was
like
very
Mario
sad.
Strikers.
I did as well, but then I stopped playing it because there was like 3 characters to play as, and they were all the same.
Yeah,
It
it
was very
is.
upsetting.
It is a little bit limited that way, but I did think that kind of, in multiplayer, it's good. It's a good time. And that's the way I
Yeah.
played it. Local multiplayer. Online, it's not really. It's one of those kind of beer
Online
and
is miserable.
it's a beer and chips kind of game. Like, if you can get
Yeah.
a local multiplayer thing going, you can have a lot of fun with Mario Strikers. But that is pretty
Didn't
much its
people
only
like
role.
Strikers, or am I just like interpreting Matt's
No, a lot of
enthusiasm
people,
every podcast?
a lot of people didn't enjoy Strikers. It's limited. Like, it doesn't work as a
It's
single player
fun,
game,
but it's not good. Yeah.
and it doesn't work
Exactly
on
that.
it's not really an online game either. It doesn't have enough of a competitive edge to be an esports thing, and it's not. It really is just one of those kind of local beer and chips games. If you can play that way, then you can get a lot of value out of it. If you can't, then you're not going to, because it's just too limited that otherwise.
It's a shame because it's good. But anyway, Lachlan,
Lachlan,
what's your
second game.
second game of the year?
I've got one that's kind of cheating. But we were talking about 2 Point Campus and sim games. I got completely sucked into season 4 of Anno 1800 this year. Anno,
Ooh.
yeah, it's a long running simulation game where basically you build an island in the 1800s, and you set up supply chains between different islands. One island might produce beer, the other one might produce iron, and then you build up your empire. It's published by Ubisoft, which is a bit eyebrow raising, and the game has 12 DLC packs, but they're actually surprisingly really good value that all add gameplay. It's like an old school PC.
I was going to
game,
say
like-
season passes. I did not realize they were doing season passes for that one. I used to love the Anno games back on the consoles and stuff. I played the 3DS or DS one. Can't remember
Oh
what
yeah, that
console
was
it
a
was
good
on,
one.
but I played it a lot. And yeah, stopped playing them because I don't really play many games on PC. But I didn't realize that they were doing the season pass thing with that. But it was still
I
going
think the
strong, which is
last one
good.
I played was 270, like 2070.
Oh, it's
like
way
that-
better than
27. I played
That's a
that as
while
well.
ago.
Yeah, that was a cool one. I like that.
Yeah, it was a
And I
good
think
one.
with more space stuff.
The space one after that, I think, is what turned people off. 2205. Yeah, that's it. Because all the numbers have to add up to 9.
Oh.
It's a weird thing. Don't get that one. It requires an active Ubisoft connection, and they always tell you to vote on the council, but the council server is down. But yeah,
Yuck.
it's one of the rare Ubisoft things where they haven't completely nickel and dimed for these expansions. It probably doubles or triples the length of the game. It starts off, the base game was like, you've got the old world and the new world, and then season 4, they've got like, I think there's 4, you can build in the Arctic, you can build in Africa. It's really one of the rare games where I'd actually recommend getting the season pass for. And I'd recommend
It's
getting
really
4
exciting.
season passes. So yeah, it's been on sale. It's been 50% off. I've sunk 600 hours into it. Yeah, if you want a harder sim game, highly recommend it.
I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
Give it all well.
All right.
Matt's what third game, Matt?
Yep, I'm going with something very matte here. Fire Emblem Three Hopes, which was it's the Warriors kind of re-envisioning.
aye.
Yeah. So it takes
That's
the
a Matt
basic
game.
Yeah, it takes the basic plot of Fire Emblem Three Houses, which we were talking about earlier on the podcast, and does a Warriors version of it, which is great. Same characters, but now action, and you can direct your dudes around a bit using the map, so it has a little bit of the tactical feel of Fire Emblem. And I just thought they pulled that one together really well, and it's highly enjoyable. And I always find Warriors games memorable. So of the 3 or 4 Warriors games that were released this year, I think it was just 3. There was Empires and Toucan Rambu, and then this one. So of those 3, this one was probably the one that stood out to me as my favorite Warriors game of the year.
That's exciting. I mean, because I went back and tried to play Hyrule Warriors 2 again, and I had a decent time with it. But again, it's just the frame rate. It's just too much for me.
Yeah, I mean, these games always have frame rate
better?
issues, so this one is not going to be any different. But
Okay, so I will not play this game.
doesn't really bother me. So I know it bothers other people, but I get along just fine with it. But yeah,
That's good.
Trent,
what's your third game?
I'm going to go with, like every other game I was playing this past few weeks, Sports Story. So it's a great follow-up to Golf Story, kind of, but I don't know. Like, some people hate it, some people love it. It's really buggy, but, you know, I was kind of vibing the Golf Story, like, style, and Sports Story feels that really well. So, yeah.
That's because that's the spiritual successor to the like what's the Camelot, like Mario Golf style games on the Game Boy Advance, right?
well, it's more homage. I mean, it's a different developer. It's an Aussie developer, actually.
Yeah, spiritual successor sort of thing. Yeah.
Definitely, you know, in the spirit of those games. Yeah, look, they stealth dropped it, like it came out of nowhere, and
It's
Well, the
rumors of a
original was
troubled
also
development.
dropped.
Apparently, a
that?
lot of people are getting soft locked, and apparently, it's a bit of a troubled development. Interesting to see what pops up. But apparently, if you go back to a previously explored area, you just get stuck there. So I'm going to wait a bit.
Oh,
yeah,
Golf
probably
Story
not.
broke my Switch. This is a
So,
one believes
so
me.
I'm near the end of the game, and well, I don't assume. Actually, I'm not really near the end of the game. I'm probably like halfway through, but mainly in the main part of the story. My golf clubs are broken. I can't use any of like the really good ones. I have to, like, if I use like the current good ones I have, I can click it, and then the little thing goes all the way to the end, and then it goes all the way back, and it goes instantly clicks on the far thing. So the ball just goes right in front of me, and I'm like, yeah, Golf Story's great.
right. So what you're saying is wait for a little bit.
Well, you can change your clubs to older clubs, and then it bypasses that, But I also had like there was like a go-kart mission in the mall, and it glitched out on me and fell through the map. And then when I respawned into it, it was loading the same map instead of the actual go-kart level.
Oh.
In other
Well, it
words,
seems
yeah,
like
wait for patches.
Yeah, wait, yeah. Yeah.
And then somehow I glitched myself onto a train. There's a train which has a lock. I didn't realize it was locked. And then I didn't realize there was an item to get into the train. So I got near the train. There's a button which says jump onto the train. I'm like, yes, I'll jump onto the train. And I couldn't get off the train.
Yeah, so wait for patches.
Yeah.
Wait for matches.
Lachlan, what's your game?
Final game, mixed feelings. Return to Monkey Island. Have to mention it as I'm
Oh,
a big Monkey
yeah.
Island fan. Didn't
happened.
love the story completely, but had great music. Once you get used to the art style, it's quite pretty. Probably actually the best starting point for new fans of Monkey Island, because then you can go back and play the older ones later, which I like more. But yeah, I'd been waiting for a proper final Monkey Island for feels like actually come back to high school, so for decades now. Yeah, while I didn't love some of the decisions they made about it, I won't spoil it, but I have strong feelings. Yeah, still a good game. I'd like to see more classic adventure games, more puzzle games. Would have liked the puzzles to be harder, but yeah, good to see more people or more companies investing in some of these older franchises that people desperately want follow-ups to.
Yeah, it is nice
Yeah,
that
it's
it
exciting.
existed. Yeah,
Mm.
that it exists is a good sign of what might come. Yes, especially if it did well commercially. So yeah, that was definitely a thing that happened this year.
It's a 7 out of 10 game, but as a diehard Monkey Island fan, gotta like it.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. 7 out of 10 is a good time.
Yeah, it's all right.
And that's what leads me into my 7 out of 10 of the year, which is Warhammer 40,000 Darktide, a game which is really good, but is held back by the fact that it's not done. It's just Left 4 Dead. If you played Vermintide, it's that, but in 40k with Chaos guys, and it's pretty fun, but it doesn't work. It's not worth buying right now, I would say. It's an aggressive 7 out of 10 with a caveat of wait a year. But yeah, it's very good. I think it has potential to be bloody wonderful, but it's held back by poor tech, an item upgrading system that doesn't work, that doesn't even actually exist right now. The shop is live, so you can buy cosmetics for real money, but you can't upgrade your in-game weapons, which is criminal, honestly. But yeah, it's fun. Just give it a year. It might be good next year, which is so sad to say. Yeah.
It's hard to keep up with all the Warhammer games. They release 70 million of them every year these days.
I mean, I've got Total War 3, Warhammer 3, because I wanted to test out the capabilities of the new computer, and it's very lovely. It's a great game. It's fun. But then I had the moment of like, oh, I'm back to being in year 6 and playing Warhammer with like my year 6 friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And smelling awful.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. Well, that's all of our games of the last year. Check out any of those if you haven't yet. And yeah.